Hi everyone, it's Chelsea here, bringing you another segment of living in Southwest Florida. If you're thinking of moving to Fort Myers, Cape Coral, or any of the surrounding areas, then you've probably done enough research to know that it's been a bit of a roller coaster in housing over the entire country over the past year. If you didn't catch last year's predictions, then feel free to click up top and go check that out and see how right or wrong I was. I'm going to take a quick second to pat myself on the back because I'd like to think that I hit my ratio pretty spot on. But that's enough about last year's predictions because today we're going to get into what 2023 real estate looked like, what I'm seeing out there right now, and what I expect to see as we move into the rest of 2024. But before we jump in, really quick, it would mean a lot to me if you go ahead and hit that like button so that YouTube algorithms share this information with others and it lets me know what you'd like more of. And my videos can sometimes be erratic when released, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, really quickly, I just wanted to shout out that in between videos, you can follow me on social media like Facebook and Instagram because we are posting there pretty much daily all of the things happening here in Southwest Florida, including things like daily life, helpful tips, market information, news about new projects, and all the sort of stuff that you might be finding useful around here. As a thank you, here is some video from a recent walk with my dogs over at Corishan State Park. It is absolutely beautiful and the history is fantastic. All right, let's jump right in. So let's start by discussing what a whirlwind 2023 was. Nationally speaking, 2023 was a bit of a cluster in the housing market. Both interest rates and housing prices had raised through the first half of the year, and by summer it caught up with most markets and had begun its decline. 2023 was the most unaffordable year of record to buy a house thanks to those high interest rates, and the housing prices just weren't dropping due to the low inventory. Interestingly enough, despite the higher interest rates, which finally peaked over 8%, and that was the first time in 20 years it had done that, there was still low inventory and that kept those prices supported. This is in part because we had the least amount of new listings last year on record as well. This is probably not surprising given how many people either had no mortgages or low interest rates and didn't want to take on high rates in order to move. But we did begin to see some relief on the national level as those interest rates finally began to drop in the latter months. Okay, I know that it's great to know what's going on a macro level, but real estate is really a micro market. Everything is localized. So let's look at the trends we saw here on a much more granular level. Well, January historically always signals a rise for us. With our snowbirds beginning their return, those who do not have winter homes here begin to look to see if this is the year they buy one. And knowing that the snowbirds are returning, homeowners begin to put their homes on the market. And last year was no different. We began the year here in Southwest Florida with a January median sales price of $441,967. And throughout snowbird season, we raised to our year high of $473,000 by May. By September, though, we were really feeling our crunch, and we hit our 2024 low of $430,000. And this picked up a little bit closer to December as we closed out the year at $440,000. So roughly just over $1,000 more than we started the year. While we rode those peaks and valleys, we did have a relatively flat year overall. And this isn't a bad thing, y'all. While a lot of the country talked about how much their markets dropped, we didn't. And look at it from a much larger scale. We are still way, way, way above normalcy than those pre-pandemic numbers. I doubt we'll ever see anything in our lifetime as those pre-pandemic numbers for our sellers. Let's take a look at what we're seeing now. In typical snowbird season fashion, sales prices were up in January. We saw a modest $10,000 rise of 2.3% month over month for December to January and a 1.3% year over year, ending January at $450,000. Closed sales dipped in January to 1,637 sales, but also keep in mind that we often see January sales as one of the lowest months of the year. This is because closed sales is a lagging data point. Majority of those closings in January come from escrows that were opened on offers in December, and everyone knows that the buyer pool hunting for houses during the holidays is reduced. In other words, this is common and normal. Also typical and normal for this time of year is that our pending sales are up. 2,674 homes are under contract, which is actually up almost 65% from December. And more importantly, over a tracking long period of time, it's also up about 1% from 2023. I love looking at pending sales because this is real-time data. As I mentioned previously, closing sales is lagging. Those are buyers that used to be in the market a few months ago, but pending sales is active buyers hunting now, and as you can see, the amount of buyers out there is still strong. But, and where it's going to start to get a little murkier, is our new listings and our active inventory. January, we always see a lot of sellers list their homes in anticipation of that Snowbird season. But this year, we saw an extraordinary amount of new homes hit the market. In fact, we hit our third highest month for new listings that we've seen in the past 8 years. And because of all these new listings, we also saw our market swell to 9.2 months of inventory. I'm going to digress here and come back for a second and explain what that means. Our months of inventory relates to how long it would take us to absorb every active listing. If we did not list another home on the market and we only sold what we had, it would take 9.2 months currently to sell off every single one. For a balanced market, we're looking at 5 to 7 months of inventory. Less than 5 months, it's a seller's market. So being over 7 months means that we're very firmly in that buyer's market right now. So what does this mean? Well, we have a typically strong amount of buyers in the market. Our inventory exceeds our amount of buyers able to purchase them, and it's causing us to shift into a buyer's market. So I want to dive into why we might be seeing so much inventory right now. A lot of this is in part to being cyclical. Typically, we'll see somewhere around 4,000 homeowners, give or take, to list their homes in any given month. And the number is always a little bit higher during January with that start of the Snowbird return. But part of it is also unique to us thanks to Hurricane Ian. You see, after Hurricane Ian, many structures needed repairs of some sort, whether it was major or minor. And even if it's a minor repair, it's going to take time to sift through insurance and wait unnecessary wait lists in order to get it resolved. Particularly if a homeowner has an active insurance claim open, new insurance cannot be written on the property and it needs to wait until that process is over. So people who may have been going through the process likely deferred their moves until a more favorable time of year, causing an additional influx of inventory to hit the market at once. Let's talk about the opportunities there are for buyers. Well, like I mentioned, we have homes for people to select from finally, and we've got interest rates that have come down a tad, which is good. The investor market has quieted down a little bit more after being so hot and heavy after Ian as well. There are definitely still opportunities out there as homeowners who have struggled with insurances finally walk away or get tired of trying to fix projects from Ian. Those who can handle those more challenging scenarios are able to swoop in and save the day. But I would say our biggest sector at the moment is new construction. Builders are finding themselves with extra inventory and are willing to give concessions or negotiate sales prices in order to move properties off their books. Thanks to these concessions, new construction is still being priced pretty competitively against resale homes, and it's enticing for buyers who want to be in Southwest Florida but are afraid of the repair work that came after the hurricane. Maybe they just don't have the stomach for repair work, or maybe they're concerned with inheriting an Ian repair. Either way, it's making new construction super enticing. A good thing for resale sellers moving into 2024 is the absence of foreclosures. Southwest Florida has always had a good chunk of cash in their secondary home ownership, but there's even higher percentage right now, especially after the COVID migration, because the northern property owners cashed out from the north and came south with cash. One of my specialties is assisting pre-foreclosure homeowners, and the amount of homes hitting that list is only 0.3%. In fact, out of roughly 500,000 homes located in Lee County alone, less than 100 hit the pre-foreclosure list in January. So let's talk about where I think 2024 is going to head. For starters, 2024 is an election year. Traditionally speaking, the government typically likes the economy to be strong and stable during election years, so there's high expectation that the interest rates will likely continue to lower and at least hold firm. Despite the heavy increase of inventory, I still feel pretty optimistic about prices holding strong. I suspect that we'll see 2 times of big inventory this year, January, which we already saw, and again at the end of the snowbird season. This often happens because the snowbirds use their homes throughout the last season and then they sell them off as they head home. Otherwise, I expect our inventory to remain pretty typical, maybe a little bit on the higher side, but probably closer to balanced throughout the majority of the year. And being balanced isn't a bad thing. Now buyers have more options for homes than they previously had. Our days on market is right back to where it was before the pandemic and more of a normalized trend. Since the pandemic lasted for a couple of years, sometimes it's hard to remember that that was not the norm, and maybe having a more normalized expectation isn't a bad thing. That being said, I am cautiously watching the inventory rates. I know that there's going to create a lot of opportunity for buyers, but I also know that as a seller, it's hard to see so much competition. It's important for sellers to not be comparing themselves to a time frame that just doesn't typically exist, like the pandemic. The pandemic was like winning the Mega Millions and the Powerball on the same day. It was a perfect storm that went in the seller's favors. All we can do now is look at the current market we're in and prepare to be competitive in that. The great news for those sellers is that we do still have a strong buyer pool, and the fact that there is often other reasons for people to move. People still get married or divorced, they have children, become empty nesters, they want to live out their dreams and have to leave snow or whatever their circumstances call for. There is still value in living the life that you want to live, and no matter what happens with interest rates and inventory, there will still be movement out there. Just be prepared to move competitively in the marketplace and have realistic expectations on time. If you've talked to me in the past, I usually hesitate to forecast much more than 6 months at a time. Let's be real, the real estate markets have been a little volatile over the last few years. And with the financial segments being volatile as well, up and down and up and down, I hesitate to give too much weight past the 6-month mark. And adding on top of that, we've got an election year. So at this stage, I'm expecting to see some additional inventory balance out with our snowboard increases. I think our buyers are going to stay strong, but with all that extra inventory to be absorbed, we do need to have some patience for our sellers. And I suspect this is going to leave us kind of flat for the first part of the year. Maybe possible increases if the buyer pool really increases with those lower interest rates as people really want to get out of the snow. With a slew of new businesses moving in the area and an unemployment rate lower than the national average, I do think that once some of the fear out there subsides, we'll see buyers who are resting come back to the market again with more confidence. All right, I hope you found this useful. Please leave a comment below and let me know what you'd like to find more interesting and what kind of numbers you want to dive into further. Also, I have a Linktree list of links in my description below if you'd like to reach out. This is where you can find that brand new 96-page beautiful moving guide to Lee County that has been a huge labor of love for me. There's also links to be able to call or text or email, or you can book an appointment with me so that we can discuss the best options for your family and discuss the specific questions about the market data or even compare specific neighborhoods. These calls are completely complimentary service to you. During that one-on-one time, we're going to be able to set up your personalized home search directly in the MLS so that you can continue to see what properties are meaningful to you. Also, I do have a network of agents throughout the United States who can help you with your move and that you can tap into. If you're not quite ready for a conversation, the Linktree also has my website, capecoralfortmyersrealestate.com. And like I said in the beginning, you can find my social media links where we're posting all the things like the small clips of life here and there, all the active happenings, new information about things happening around town, and other information that you may find handy and give you insight as to what life in Florida looks like. As always, I really appreciate it when you leave me a comment and hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bells so that you can be notified when we drop future videos that may help you with living in Southwest Florida. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I wish you much health and happiness.